After the session, we'll have a welcome by our Deputy Head of Unit. Then we'll dive into the session on data spaces for skills, a presentation by our colleagues from Connect, and this will be followed by a question and answer session. This will be followed by a presentation on the next topic within the same call, data spaces for manufacturing, and then we will move on to the support for health data access bodies to foster efficient pathways for AI in healthcare, which is another topic under this call. Following that, we will have a 10-minute break, and then we'll proceed to another very important presentation, which will provide you with key guidelines on how to submit a successful proposal via the Funding and Tenders portal. And then we will have our colleagues from REA who will join us and provide us with the administrative information on the legal validation of financial capacity. And given that we have two topics which are restricted, the ownership control form and validation. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over the floor to our Deputy Head of Unit, Jean-François.
Verkligen.
So Jean-François, the floor is yours.
Sorry, I realized I was muted. Good morning, everybody. Just to make sure that everybody has their mic muted unless you are the one speaking, so that we do not disturb each other during the presentation. So good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Jungler, the Deputy Head of Unit of the Digital Unit in ADER. And I will do a very, very brief opening of this session to give you some overall messages.
Jean-François, I think we lost you.
I've muted myself alone, so my apologies. So the Digital Europe program is not at all a research program. So this you need to keep in mind. We're not here in this program to do research, but we're rather here to address some industrial interests of the European Union, where at the beginning of the program, it was clearly stated that the European Union need to regain strategic autonomy in some key areas. And for that, we will invest billions in order to achieve this. And so this would be done by deploying some infrastructure, providing all the different elements and supporting the take-up of the different elements we are supporting with the program. The program has 5 priorities. First is the SO1, high performance computing, making sure we regain the lead in the field of high computing centers. Second is the cloud data and artificial intelligence, to make sure we create the data space and the data lakes needed for the industry, for the public sector, and for different actors, and that we have the information available for everybody. The third priority is the one that is needed for absolutely everything in the digital, is the cybersecurity. Today, it's even stronger, the need for cybersecurity, and in fact, the budget for the cybersecurity has been increased. I heard someone having its mic on. If you could please make sure you switch it off. Without the skills, we cannot achieve any of the 3 priorities. So digital skills is the 4th priority, where we are supporting the creation of the knowledge and the creation of the trainings to make sure that we have all the skills in Europe to make sure we can implement those high performance computing and others. And the last priority, it's about the deployment and the take-up of those technology. It's also a follow-up of the CEF telecom program, the deployment of the DSI, but this is becoming less and less relevant as we're moving further and we're moving beyond that. So today you will see and receive all the information for the calls open in the cloud. That means SO2 priority, and we will explain to you the different topics that are there, the skills, the manufacturing space, and the data, the healthcare data space. I will not get into more details. You will get it all today. And of course, you can also go to the digital portal, tender portal, for further information. I'm going too fast. Very important. Today, out of the 3 topics, 2 have what we call a restricted dimension. It means we apply the Article 12.6 of the regulation that enable to decide that calls can only entities in Europe or controlled by the European Union, within the European Union, can participate in those calls. That means for the manufacturing data space and for the health data space, we have these restrictions apply, and you will get all the information about it and how to answer the ownership and the control form. A big difference compared to previous calls, if you have participated in previous calls and previous grants, the pre-financing has been increased to 80% for the 3 topics. The purpose is very clearly to limit the financial stress we're creating on a beneficiary participating in the calls, so that you can be in a much better position. Again, get some feedback, noise feedback. So the last thing I wanted to show you is the timeline. It will be repeated to you. The deadline, the call has been open. The deadline is the 29th of May at 5 o'clock. So this is a hard deadline. It's online. It means that you don't have to run physically to our premises, but you still have to submit your proposal on time. And we will not accept any excuses for delays. So really do not wait for submitting your proposal at the very last minute. You might have some connection issues. You might have some file issues. So any issues you would have on your side do not become acceptable for failing to submit it on time. I would say best practice would be to set yourself a deadline a couple of days before, because like this you are able to recuperate if anything goes wrong. The aim of the call will be that the grants will be signed latest February next year. It sounds far, it means 1 year, but hopefully if the preparation of the grant is fast, the grant can be signed, of course, earlier. But our legal obligation is February. So I will stop here in my introductions. I will really leave my colleagues to go and give you all the details, information about this call. But please don't hesitate also to provide your feedback, because this helps us to improve future information days and improve the quality of what we're providing to you and the quantity of information we're providing to you. So Charmaine, I'll give you the floor back, and thanks to everyone, and thanks for the presentation. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jean-Francois, for setting the scene for today's info session. And without further ado, I'd like to hand the floor to Nadia from DG Connect A4, from Connect G2, who will provide the policy context on data spaces for skills, which is one of the topics under this call. So the floor is yours, Nadia.
Thank you. Good morning to everybody. 1 second, I will share my presentation.
Okay, it's visible, Nadia, the presentation.
Great.
Okay.
Good morning to everybody. My name is Nadia Kantjen. I work in DG Connect in the unit G2, and I'm a policy officer there. And I will present to you today our call for the deployment action for the data space for skills. I want to start by giving you a bit of policy background. So in 2020, the European Commission has published its communication, A European Strategy for Data, which outlines the goal of creating a genuine single market for data that ensures Europe's global competitiveness and data sovereignty. This single market should be open to data from across the world, where personal as well as non-personal data, including also sensitive business data, is secure. It should be a space where EU law can be enforced effectively, and where all data-driven products and services comply with the relevant norms of the EU single market. And to reach this, the Commission invests in European or common European data spaces in strategic economic sectors and domains of public interest. Currently, I think there's 14 that have been identified, and one of them is skills. In general, these data spaces will facilitate secure data pooling and data sharing by establishing a governance structure and providing a mechanism for entering contracts about sharing that data. This then solves problems like creating trust among participants and also overcoming interoperability issues. All of this has to happen in line with European values, with a particular emphasis on ethics, diversity, security, and privacy. And by making this data more accessible, these databases should foster an ecosystem where new products and services can be created. And I've linked the second staff working document of the Commission that kind of reviews the state of play of the common European data spaces a bit. So if you're interested in also seeing how the other data spaces in the other sectors are progressing, I encourage you to look at that later. As I said, skills is one of the sectors that have been identified where it's important to facilitate data sharing. So the European strategy for data lays out the aim or goal of the data space for skills as to reduce the skills mismatches between the education and training system on the one hand and the labor market needs on the other. So it's expected to be a data space for sharing and accessing skills data such as education records, training inventories, skills offered by employees, the skills needed by the employers, job vacancies, CVs, etc. And this data could then be shared for various purposes, from analytical and statistical purposes, so more on the research side, to policy development, or, as I already said, the reuse or use for innovative applications. The Commission has already laid out work on the European Common Data Space for Skills via the preparatory action that was funded under the 2021-2022 work program of the digital program. The project was called DS for Skills. It was a CSA that concluded end of last year, and it has delivered, amongst other things, a data space for skills blueprint, which is a comprehensive framework that addresses all aspects that are necessary to build a data space for skills, such as the info on business models and governance, the technical infrastructure, user experience, information on growth and rollout strategies, things like that. And then it has also produced an interactive inventory of skills data initiatives. That inventory collects and categorizes initiatives that are operating or building skills in education data ecosystems. So what are we looking for now in the deployment action? So obviously the development and the deployment of a secure and trusted common European data space for skills. What does it mean? It means to integrate, test, and deploy the technical infrastructure, the implementation of a minimum of 3 use cases, putting in place a governance mechanism, providing continuous maintenance operations, monitoring the usage of the data space, and also offering a help desk for the participants, fostering engagement of stakeholders with the data space, and then also ensuring that there's long-term economic sustainability. The winning proposal is expected to ensure that major stakeholders adopt the data space and use it, and that its value is proven at an EU-wide level. And in order to achieve this, there's 2 things that particular attention should be paid to. So one is this implementation of, as I already said, a minimum of 3 use cases. This could be, for example, data-based innovative solutions involving job offers, qualifications, learning opportunities, lists of curricula and certifications, etc. So there's really, I think, an unlimited number of use cases that one could imagine putting in place. And then it's also important to connecting the data and service providers to the infrastructure. That includes providing guidance, support, and training documentation for the future participants to reduce entry barriers. And then it could also possibly be things like onboarding events or networking opportunities to foster this engagement and adoption of the data space that I already talked about. Are there any projects on which the proposal should build upon? Yes, as I already said, we had the preparatory action. So the new proposal must build upon this data space for skills blueprint and also take into consideration the interactive inventory of skills data initiatives that I already talked about. Then the proposal is expected to integrate building blocks and infrastructure that are funded under the call Digital 2022 Cloud AI 03 pilots and cloud services. Then it is supposed to work in close collaboration with the data space for the data space support center, to ensure alignment with the rest of the ecosystem of data spaces, and also use, if possible, the smart middleware platform Simple. I've also put a link to that in there. And then the proposal is also supposed to seek complementarity with existing initiatives in the domain of skills and qualifications by establishing links to actions of those initiatives, and then also, of course, take into account other singular public or private data spaces that have been developed at national or regional level across the EU. Who are the types of main stakeholders that are addressed? It's higher education institutions, vocational education and training institutions, and other education training providers. And then there's, of course, businesses and human resources organizations, employment agencies, public employment services, and other guidance providers in that area, trade and industry associations, social partners, of course, also the technical side, so IT developers, and then also other private and public actors that work in job search and recruitment services or data sharing. I've listed some additional documents and other relevant links here. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list, but you can find a link to the call text here. Then I've linked the European Strategy for Data that I already talked about. There's the website for the Common European Data Space. It's where you can find a lot of information on the data spaces in general. Also the staff working documents that I've again linked here. And then the Digital Europe Work Program 2023-2024, under which this call is funded. And then I've put some other policy links to the European Skills Agenda, the Digital Education Action Plan, and the Digital Decade Policy Program. And then also links to some of the European initiatives that already work in the domain of skills and education, where then complementarities should be sought with to connect those to the data space. Upcoming information days and other events. Pretty sure that everybody who is interested in data spaces already knows this, but currently there's the Data Spaces Symposium happening in Germany. I think it runs until tomorrow, so if anybody isn't there yet and wants to spontaneously go, I think it would be a good thing to do. And then I've also linked the newsletter of the Data Spaces Support Center, which I think is really useful. They provide information, upcoming events. They have a webinar. It's also a good place to connect. So this might be of interest to everybody. This is the end of my presentation. I've included this Slido image thingy to scan, where you, I think, are supposed to give feedback about the presentation. And then I think I will open the floor for questions. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you so much, Nadia, for that clear presentation, and which provides the basis for the topic and the call itself. I'd like to encourage all participants to submit their questions in the chat section. And as already indicated by my colleague Maria, please do include the topic that you would like to ask this question on, so that would be easier for us later to publish the reply on the Funding and Tenders portal under the question and answer section per topic. There is a question, Nadia, regarding the, so the question is the following. Could you give an update on the state of play of Simple, please? As it is not up and running yet, and what do stakeholders need to know now to elaborate on how they can integrate Simple in their project?
I'm sorry, I currently don't have the details on how far Simple is, but I can talk to my colleagues. And then we can give you some more information. 1 second, please. My colleague is also saying something. Yes, so we'll get back to you with that. Is that possible?
Yes, definitely. So we'll take good note of the question. I mean, I've already took good note of the question actually, and basically we'll do provide a written reply and will be published on the Funding and Tenders portal. So there is another question. Are associated countries eligible for all the 3 calls for today's presentation? Indeed, there is within the call document. There is a section which I will post as well, the link to the list of associated countries which are eligible to participate in this call. So I will share the link to the list of associated countries in the chat, so it will be available for everyone. Are there any more questions on this, on the data spaces for skills? Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, all questions submitted will be published. The official answer will be provided in the Funding and Tenders portal. So we'll collect and capture all questions. So if you don't have the time, or once you're preparing the presentation, you can always submit additional questions for which we'll provide an official reply in writing. And so I'd like to thank you, Nadia, for the time being, and I would like to move on to the next presentation. And the next presentation is on the topic data spaces for manufacturing. And with us today we have Eve from DG Connect Unit A4. And the floor is yours, Eve, and the presentation, it's already visible in front of us. Thanks so much.
Many thanks, German. And a very good morning to all of you. We have 24 million companies in the EU, and 2 million are in the manufacturing sector. So really here, the idea, as already expressed by our Commissioner Breton, is to make sure that all industries will actually be able to use their data to create value in Europe. And the goal of the data strategy that has been explained by Nadia before is really to make Europe the most data-empowered continent in the world. So that's the vision that we have here. If we look at the data space for manufacturing, what I would like here to mention is it is actually building as part of a different landscape of deployment. The basic elements, the building blocks, the data space, cloud infrastructure or cloud to edge infrastructure, the common elements, all of that is actually currently being provided through a number of other projects, and including the Data Space Support Center. I really encourage you to visit their website. And what we would like here is really focusing more on what is the kind of data space that we want to have that will live on top of the different common elements. So you don't have to recreate the common elements, you have to use them, and then you have to add the value on top of that. We have had already a preparatory action, data space for the zero, which I come to that in a moment, has already laid on the ground for a number of points, semantics, and so on. And we have also had a previous call that looked specifically into the condition monitoring and asset management, smart maintenance for one, and underpin for another one. Those really looked into what is the condition of the machines in a production line and how they can be optimized, and what kind of data space needs to be there that provides the necessary cybersecurity, real time, with guaranteeing that the line stays up. So that is the things that exist. And obviously, when we do the new call for data space, you have to take into account that it exists and the type of semantics, the type of connectors that's already there. For you to know as well, as a European Commission, we have the data strategy and we go full speed on the data spaces, but there is also a number of national initiatives, such as Manufacturing X in Germany, Data for Industry X in France. There is the data strategy in Netherlands, in Spain. So see how we can build here a synergetic view of the different initiatives. I go very quickly on this one. This is just repeating and giving you the links. So you will have the presentation and you will be able to click on the different links. All of that has been made. Why you should go and visit the EU Data Space preparatory action? It's because it has already looked into a number of points, such as which kind of governance do we want? Which kind of business model to incentivize the data sharing and reuse, which kind of data sets, which kind of data platform, blueprints for an architecture. So take that into account. And now I come to this deployment call for 2024. And here the objective is really to significantly scale up the deployment and use of the data space, with the goal is really getting to a critical mass of industry that will share industrial data and that will improve their company operation, and that will improve how the operation on the value chain among providers would actually work. And in addition, also in this objective is which kind of data should actually be transferred along a supply chain to have a greener and more circular economy with new business model. And typically, if you think of what is the focus of this call, is supply chain. And this is really an agile supply chain management and execution of the monitoring of the different parts from the manufacturer, but from tier 1, tier 2, tier N suppliers, with exchange of data such as purchase order, sales order, inventory level, order progress, the book orders, the forecast. So you can have also your tier N ramping up in terms of capacity to deliver. When you think of that you have a number of orders coming from your clients. So all of that is how we want to see the different data going through the different parts of the supply chain. And obviously, when we mean manufacturing, we also mean logistics. So this is also an element not to be forgotten. Expected outcome. We have therefore here a type of a portfolio approach. So it's management of the supply chain, but you have to look into one of the specific 2 use cases. The first use case is the supply chain management, the data sharing, in order to allow for risk mitigation response, early warning, predictive material shortage. But we have also the bullwhip effect that could be interesting to see how we can soften and dampen these effects. So all of that. I will not come to the difference exchange of data here. What you have to know is we don't necessarily want to have end-to-end along the supply chain. You can focus also your the deployment of this data space for manufacturing on segment of the value chain. And then the second use case is to drive the transition to a greener and a circular economy. And here, typically, the type of data that we would be thinking of that you would exchange is the carbon footprint, for example, on one hand, or the digital product passport on the other hand. We want the data space to fully comply with the standards and the norms, including the environmental requirements, the product passport, the tax regimes, because you might want to consider also how you can have the data helping you with VAT declaration, with custom declaration. The data space is meant to be operational. So it meant to be real world. And therefore, that's why we want you to align it also with your business practice. Now, obviously, part of the data space is making sure that we have this data available along the value chain. The data space is control and trustworthy access on different parts of the data according to your role in that supply chain, and therefore it needs to be accompanied by also the voluntary agreement. So we live in a world of business, so there will be contractual arrangement, and this is also the type of things that we want to see. It's not only about the deployment of an IT infrastructure, it's also about it's also about the soft infrastructure that comes on top of it, really meaning business. The expected deliverable, we want that at the end of the project, we have an infrastructure that is in place that will stay after the project, and that continues to deliver industrial data sharing among the manufacturing company and the service provider. So think in terms of who are your users, what kind of trustworthiness of data sovereignty you want to have in the different companies that will participate, and that it needs to be manageable. We have a number of specific deliverables, as I said, a technical infrastructure, but also a documentation of what is the data governance, what kind of contractual aspects would cover the exchange, code of conduct, template for contracts, guidance document, training documents. That is, you have an IT infrastructure, you have an SME that doesn't know anything about it. How can you onboard that SME in the supply chain? Where do they have to start? Which kind of connectors? How do they plug in? So really, it needs to be with a documented approach, and that kind of documentation must be made easy in a way that you can easily onboard different companies that would know nothing on how to share their data, but are willing to join. And what we want to also see, as you see, is a deployment. So we want to see that we go along with the usage, which kind of problems, how do you overcome those problems, which are the kind of solution. So we also create a community of data space for manufacturing operators and users, and we learn from each other. You will have to identify KPIs, and you will have to indicate for the KPIs that you want to give yourself. Also, what would be the target value that you want to achieve by the end of the project in terms of business, in terms of technicality, and in terms of deployment. And in terms of usage and how you get also this acceleration of usage and onboarding by different companies. We have also in the call mandatory activities. They are not the principal one. The principal one is really the deployment of the data space. These are additional activities, but they are mandatory. And there are two. One is how you bring the different stakeholders to conclude data agreements. And the second one is how you have effectively tracking and reporting on the use of the different resources, but from the point of view of the user, from the point of view of the manufacturer. And in terms of resource, so here we have foreseen a budget of 13 million euro funding. It's a 50% funding rate for all. So see this more as not as a source of funding of free money, but rather doing things that are of interest to you, and think that if this is aligned with the priorities of the deployment for this data space, we are actually de-risking your investment. We are helping you to onboard, being part of data-driven business models. You would have to build on top of the common element of the data space. There is a data space support center, I already mentioned, that will guide you through what is the kind of smart middleware platform and tools. There is also a radar which lists what currently exists. We expect you also to coordinate and collaborate with the other projects. The idea here is to have all data space being able over time to converge and communicate. It's not a data space in a silo. As another part of the program, we have also initiated European Digital Innovation Hubs. They are one-stop shop to help SMEs to do more with digital. And here they can be very interesting vehicles to actually deploy the data space even further, even beyond your natural border as a consortium. Just a bit of background, but just to simply show what is currently what is being provided by the Common Data Space Support Center. You see the fact that it needs to go towards Simple. The consortium deploying Simple and defining Simple has recently started. So this is something that you have to adjust over time, making sure that you have the provision to converge with Simple. And you see that in terms of architecture, there is already a number of services, connectors, administrative services which are provided or which will be provided by the infrastructure. So this is not for you to redo these services, but rather to use what will be there. So this is really to make sure that you focus on the data space for manufacturing for the supply chain. And with this, I stop my presentation and I thank you very much. And you have a little Slido QR code if you want to actually ask questions and feedback on the presentation. Many thanks, and Charmaine, I give you the floor back.
Thank you so much, Eve, for that very detailed presentation. And it was so clear that so far we didn't receive any questions submitted. So I'd like to remind all participants to submit their questions in the chat section, indicating the topic, the name, and their email address. And if we wouldn't have the in case we don't have the possibility to provide an answer now, all the questions submitted will be published on the Funding and Tenders portal under the topic section. So a kind reminder to all participants, please, during all presentations, to keep your microphones off, because it can be very distracting to the presenters. So please keep this in mind to ensure that you keep your mics off at all times. And one final reminder, again, is to provide your feedback on these info sessions to ensure that we cater and improve our sessions, information sessions, to address the applicant's needs. So you can provide your feedback. In fact, Maya just included the link to provide your feedback on these information sessions. So given that there is currently no questions on the data spaces for manufacturing, I'd like to thank Yves for his presentation, and we can move on to the next topic within this call, which is support for health data access bodies to foster efficient pathways for AI in healthcare. And for this next presentation, I'd like to hand the floor to Renata and Licinio, who will provide us with the policy context and what are the aims and objectives of this topic. So the floor is yours, Renata, and your presentation, we can see it already. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sherman. It's good to be with you all, and then use this as an opportunity to provide some updates on this topic. Let me start from the policy context first. As some of the colleagues mentioned, this topic is linked closely to European data spaces, specifically, yes, we can have already another slide. It's linked to European Health Data Spaces, EHDS, that establishes the common framework for the reuse of health data, and it aims to facilitate and streamline access to EU-wide real-world health data for specific purposes, such as development, testing, deployment, and uptake of products or services contributing to public health, or the training, testing, and evaluation of algorithms, including in medical devices, AI systems, and digital health application. So to be even more specific, this topic links to especially aspect of health data access bodies, HDAPs, in each country that as trusted anchors support and supervise the reuse of health data. So as you can see in the objective, this action aims to strengthen the role and capabilities of health data access bodies, and having this testing and deployment pathways for healthcare AI solutions in place and coordinated. And there is another aim to reduce time to market and foster the development of new AI-based healthcare products and services that significantly can improve patient safety and well-being, of course, while preserving privacy and security. In this context, what could be of importance to you, important reference, would be the Article 33 of EHDS that specifies minimum categories of electronic data for secondary use, and especially Article 34 that specifies the intended purposes for which electronic health data can be made available by HDAPs and processed for secondary use. They need to comply with training, testing, evaluating of algorithms, including in medical devices, AI systems, and digital health applications. contributing to the public health or social security, or ensuring high levels of quality and safety of healthcare and of medicinal products or of medical devices. So this is important aspect in the context of EHDS, but also this action is relevant to the implementation of AI Act that establishes an overarching framework for trustworthy AI that of course includes healthcare deployments, especially in the context of medical devices, and should be seen as part of the wider AI ecosystem in health, such as testing and experimentation facilities and European digital innovation hubs that will enable the access to testing facilities and use of real-world data. In this context, I should also mention the package of measures to support European startups and SMEs in the development of trustworthy AI, recently launched by the Commission. This package, I will put the link to the communication on boosting startups and innovation in trustworthy AI in the chat, so you can check and then consult the Gen AI for You initiative that it's designed to promote the development of novel use cases and emerging applications. And healthcare was identified as a key applications in this area as well. So there are certain aspects that could be related to policy. And of course, there are more concrete details like the budget, the duration. As you see on the slide, the budget is 4 million, and it's like coordination, support, action, 100% funding. One project will be funded, and the duration will be 3 years, indicated, of course. Next slide, please. So the scope is consisting of 5 elements, which is identifying pathways for the development, testing, and deployment of AI in health, and limitation of bottlenecks and gaps. So we want to understand where are the most challenges coming and how we can overcome them. And another aspect is to design more effective pathways by leveraging EHDS and HDAPs and possibly TEFs and then EDICs. Another element is creating and implementing the necessary capabilities at the level of HDAPs, testing and showcasing these pathways, and providing guidelines and recommendations how to improve these pathways. On the next slide, we will have outcomes and deliverables, which could be summarized by saying that what we're expecting is to have the report on the pathways identified, description of these pathways, guidelines for creating and deploying these capabilities, reporting on the tests and showcases conducted, and recommendations for the implementing of development, testing, and deployment of these pathways based on opportunities offered by EHDS and in compliance with the requirements of the AI Act. On the next slide, you will see the targeted stakeholders and KPIs that will be used to measure outcomes and deliverables. So in the context of stakeholders, you will have health data access bodies, public sector bodies, member states authorities, academia, healthcare providers, and private entities, including SMEs or startups. Important element is that in addition to eligibility criteria in the consortium application, we are highly encouraging to include at least 3 health data access bodies from 3 different eligible countries and 3 companies or institutes or developers or innovators developing AI solutions from 3 different eligible countries. The reason being, to be able to really check against the reality and have quicker uptake of the solutions. And KPI used to measure the outcomes would be the number of HDAPs offering operationalized pathways for testing and deployment, number of tests and showcases conducted, number of data access applications related to AI processed by HDAPs, and number of HDAPs engaged in implementing the pathways for testing and deployment of AI in health. And there are certain minimum numbers in each cases, as shown on the slide. On next slide, you will have, we already received a question regarding HDAP, and we already published the answer on tenders and funding portal. If I can ask Licinio that can come join the floor, so we can answer this one and answer any questions that will come in the chat or in person. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Just to confirm, just to give voice to that clarification that was there before on screen, if we can go to yeah, thank you very much. Just to confirm, indeed, as informed, the European Health Data Space Regulation is still under negotiation. So the role of the health data access bodies in this call should be understood as entities that have a comparable mandate to the ones that will be assigned to the health data access bodies in the regulation.
Okay, so thank you both Renat and Licinio for a detailed overview on this call, and as well for sharing with us the question which has already been received via the frequent asked questions link on the Funding and Tenders portal, for which we'll show you later during your application process. In case you come across any questions, you can still submit your questions till the very last and until the call closure. So you will submit your questions and they will be published on the Funding and Tenders portal. And in the meantime, there is a question, in fact, on the HDAP. Can we have the link related to SME Boost for the HDAP call, please? So this is something which we will post. And there is another question, maybe which can be taken up by Renate and Licinio. Can academics from member states in which HDAPs did not apply to the direct grant for HDAP can participate to this call? So the question is indeed, so can academics from member states apply for this call? That is the question. So would you like to take this up, Renate or Licinio?
Just perhaps from my side, and Renate can complement, there is not a direct link between this and the HDAP grant. So the question comes clearly if there is a direct link between a country that has applied or a country that no. So there isn't that such requirement. So what it is a requirement is that this consortium includes health data access bodies or organizations that have an equivalent mandate. But of course, the consortium should also include other type of partners, and academic partners are most welcome to actually work on the problem raised by the call, definitely.
Thank you, Sharman. Okay, it will be a bit tense, so get ready. Okay. So once you have decided on which topic you would like to apply for, we obviously have to get hold of the call document. And as you know, all our calls are published on the Funding and Tenders portal. You have a direct link here. And the very easiest way is really just to copy paste the topic ID or the call ID in the search function of the Funding and Tenders portal. You may also filter through programs, but that's a bit more complicated. So I recommend just to take good note of the topic ID and search with that. Here the example of our call. So in this call, we have 3 topics. By clicking one of the topics, you will land to the most important page, which is the topic page. This is the page which you probably should bookmark, as you will have to come back to it during the preparation of your proposal. On the left-hand side, you have a navigation menu, which helps a lot to find the information, as the page is quite long and has a lot of information. And really, the first step is to go to the conditions and documents section, where you can find the call document on the bottom of this page. So you have link to the call document, as well as the Digital Europe Program's model grant agreement, and then other legal documents which you also might need to revisit during the process. Okay, so here we have the first page of the call document. I just want to give an overview on how it is structured. So after the introduction and background, we have the main section for you, which is the section 2. This is where you can find all the topic specific information. So if you have read the work program that was published earlier, that had already some details on the upcoming topics, this section 2 is where all this information is now expanded and really detailed. So it's the part that guides you when designing your project and checking all the activities that are required, for example, or the KPIs that we've seen today in the presentations. So this is really the topic specific information. Then rest of the document sections from 3 until the end are the general information that is applicable to all the call, so for all the 3 topics. And here, then, any exceptions to the main rules are indicated per topic. So this is the way you should be reading the document. And here I have highlighted Annex 2, as Jean-François in his presentation in the morning already mentioned. We have 2 topics which fall into the restricted category. So we apply the Article 12.6 there. It's very, very important that these 2 topics, manufacturing space, data space, and healthcare AI, take a look at the Annex 2. Also, obviously, Section 6 is of high importance. It outlines all the eligibility conditions when it comes to countries, for example. For these restricted calls, I've highlighted here a couple of important points. So the restrictions apply to the eligible applicants. This is why you should really read carefully all the information to make sure you are eligible. I have also listed here the document where you can see the current status of the DEP associated countries. It's a document that is updated whenever there's a new candidate country or whenever a country signs the association agreement. My colleagues from REA, from the validation service, will give another presentation after me, giving a bit more detail on the restrictions and how this really affects the application process. There's an additional documentation that have to be submitted. The restriction also has some impact on some of the provisions of the grant agreement. You can see a list here. And then I compiled all the important documents and sections that you should read in relation to the restrictions. This will be available for you afterwards. Okay, once you have read the call, you have your consortia, you have an idea, and you want to really start the actual submission in the system, we would go back to the topics page. And again, using the internal navigation, you will find a section for Start Submission. You simply click that and you will be directed to the submission system. Here again, make sure you are applying for the right topic. We have 3 topics, so it's very easy to get confused. This is something that once you have started the submission, you will not be able to change. So just make sure you are submitting for the right topic. The landing page of the submission service looks like this. On top of the page, you will have this metro line indicating the step where you are at. And then again, check the correct topic. And to start your proposal, you would first need to insert one validated PIC number. Normally it is the coordinator, of course, who initiates this process. So this code is the code of the coordinating entity. Also, colleagues from REA will give you more information on the validation process for your organization, unless you have already been validated and have applied before. So once you insert the PIC number there, this will trigger the different administrative forms, and the system really guides you through how to fill in everything. Then you can, of course, save and come back to the proposal anytime, so you don't have to do it in one go. Another very important thing in the first step is to go and download the Part B templates. You might find the templates online, even on the Funding and Tenders portal, but you should always take the templates from the submission system. This is very important. Once you click on the download Part B templates, you will get a zip file with 2 documents. These are RTF files. I recommend you to convert to doc or docs format. They will weigh a little bit less. So you will have to use these 2 formats and not change their format. So if you are familiar with, for example, Horizon Europe projects and the template they use, the DEP template looks a bit different, and it doesn't allow you to change the format as in Horizon Europe. So really stick to this template, stick to the format, do not delete any information from it. And then for the Part A, as I said, introducing the first partner code in the system will give you then access to modify the 4 sections of Part A. A little bit more on the 2 sections. So Part A, general information, is mostly kind of fixed to the topic that you have selected to submit for. You can update proposal acronym, for example, but the other sections are fixed. Then for the participants, budget and other questions, a couple of important points. So in the previous presentations by our colleagues from Connect and Santé, they have presented in their slides the strict eligibility rules that apply to the topic. So for example, when we have a proposal that requires minimum 3 participants from 3 different countries, it is the Part A where you have to fulfill these requirements. You should check section 2 and section 6 of the call document. Then for budget, budget is also under part A. It's a table format, very simple, straightforward to fill in the budget per category and per partner. And for the eligible or non-eligible budget categories for each topic, you should check section 3 and 10 of the call document. And then a little note, if for one of your topics, you will see a column for the financial support to third parties in the budget table, you should simply leave this 0. Financial support to third parties is not applicable, it's not allowed in any of these 3 topics. Then ethics and security. These are also tables under the part A. All the questions are to be answered yes or no. Depending on your answer, for example, if you answer yes, there might be follow-up questions that you need to answer. And in any case, if you answer yes to any question, you would have to indicate then also a page number of the part B, where these ethical or security issues are described more in detail. This is to aid the evaluation process as well as consecutive checks that we made on ethics and security. And these both tables are obligatory. The good thing for part A is that you have an option for validation. So you can validate the form at any time and it will pinpoint you to any missing or wrong information. So this is very useful. Then on the part B, so part B is the template we downloaded from the submission system. So it has 5 sections. The first 3 are the technical part of your application. So really the narrative part where you explain your activities and how the process will be done. Note that here these 3 sections and the subsections of the Part B document are in line with our award criteria. So these are really the points that will be then evaluated by the external experts once all proposals have been submitted. So keep at hand both the award criteria and the call document to work on these 3 sections of Part B. I have indicated here also a couple of exceptions. I will not go through them one by one, but depending on the topic, some of these sections do not apply. And when they don't apply, you simply leave it empty in the part B. Then the rest of the part B is all table formats. So work plan includes a lot of tables for the work plan and purchases, other costs, the Gantt. You just simply follow the format of the template and fill the information in. Then part B still includes a section for ethics and security, but this should be left empty as all the information is already included in part A, but this is also clearly indicated in the template, so it's clear for you. Then you have a couple of tables on declarations. Very important, if you plan to use other EU funding, then you need to indicate this. And then financial support to third parties, again, is not applicable, so you leave it empty. In the annex section, the ownership control declaration is the separate template document that you also download from the system. This should be uploaded as a separate PDF for the restricted calls. And then in the end of part B, you have a table format for the previous project. So you should use this table format to list all the previous projects that are related to your proposal, but do it as a separate document. So you take the format from the part B template, but you upload this as a separate document The reason for that being the page limits. So part B, sections 1 to 6 should fit in 70 or 50 pages, depending on the topic. And then ownership control declaration doesn't count towards the page limit, nor does the list of previous projects. Okay, here you will see again the submission service window. So you have seen we have moved to the proposal form step. This is also after filling in all the information on the different participants in the part A. And the system will ask you to upload the part B. This is mandatory for all topics. And then I have indicated here the topics for which list of previous projects annex and the ownership control declaration must be submitted. Here's an image of the validation, so you can freely use the validation button anytime during the process. Nothing wrong will happen. Simply, it will show you if some information is missing. And use it, of course, before doing your final submission. Then for the award criteria, as I said, the award criteria, relevance, implementation, and impact follow the same structure as the Part B sections. Here again, a couple of exceptions. So some of the criteria do not apply for all the topics. This is listed, of course, in the call document, but you have a summary here. And thresholds to get funded. So our proposals are evaluated by external experts, and we give scores from 0 to 5 per criteria. There's a minimum pass score, which is 3. This is set per criteria. And then the minimum pass score for the entire proposal is 10. So you would need at least 3.5 or 4 in some of the individual criteria to be funded. Of course, the funding is limited to the available budget. So even if you get a very high score, it doesn't mean you necessarily get funded. So we have 2 thresholds per criterion and then for the overall score. You can find all the details of this in the call document section 9. Then the easiest part, for guidance, there's a wealth of information online to guide you through the whole process. Most important being the topic-related FAQs, which will, as of next week, be called topic-related questions and answers. So again, on the topic page, all the questions, for example, that you've made today, we will update them here on the topic page. It's very useful to go there every now and then and check if there's new information. Then also using the internal navigation, you can get to the Get Support section and send questions directly to us. If you click on the Here button, you will be directed to this generic contact form, but questions related to our topic will come directly to us and colleagues at Connect and Sante, and we will be able to answer you. Again, in the support section of the Funding and Tenders portal, you have links to all guidance manual and also the IT help desk in case you find some technical problems. And I would like to highlight these 2 very good guidance. The online manual, it really goes step by step through the whole process of submitting a proposal. And then you have a more IT perspective kind of guidance that gives you even all the detailed screenshots of every single step. So you have here a direct link to the submit a proposal section on both guides. Then for final tips, Admissibility requirements. So before any proposal is actually evaluated, we will check the admissibility and eligibility requirements. So admissibility means that we can actually read your proposal and that you have used the correct template. So after changing your Part B document into PDF, make sure that it's readable. Sometimes these documents get corrupted and something strange happens, or that tables don't go outside the page or things like this. Then for eligibility, you really need to fulfill the consortium composition requirement set in the call. There's nothing we can do afterwards if this requirement is not fulfilled. Also for the 2 restricted calls, you must submit together with your proposal the ownership control declaration. Ethics and security is also very important. These have consequences during the preparation of the grant agreement, depending on what you have answered there. So please just do it with a lot of care. Whenever you have identified an ethics or security issue, please indicate the Part B page and also describe how you really comply with the ethical principles. Then for the award criteria, as I said, it's in line with our proposal template, so keep it at hand. It will explain in detail what parts and what information will be evaluated. Page limit. So for these 3 topics today, we have a bit differences depending on the type of action. So for the coordination and support actions, which is the healthcare AI topic today, the limit is 50 pages. And then for the other 2, page limit is 70. So this is for the Part B. Don't include any technical information that exceeds these pages because this will not be visible for the evaluation. And deadline, you can submit your proposal at any time until the deadline of the call. So make a test submission, then make sure everything is okay, and then you can fix errors and submit again. So really don't be afraid to do submissions before. Only the last version submitted before the deadline will be taken into account. And that's all from my side. It was a bit speedy.
Thank you, Mariano. It was very nicely paced and very clear. So definitely, if I was an applicant, I could easily follow step by step what you were explaining.
And again, slides will be uploaded.
Indeed, on the event website and on Hadea's website. And we do have a question related to this presentation, and it comes from Ines Alves. Regarding the parts of the application which are not applicable. So the question is whether to leave these parts empty or to delete them. So never delete any parts of the template. However, please do indicate that it's not applicable to your proposal. However, never delete parts of the application process of the form B.
Yeah, you can leave empty or write not applicable, for example, in that table, let's say.
It makes it easier for the evaluators, for the external evaluators as well to follow through and ensure that the template is not disjointed or some of the information was left empty, was deleted. So always mark not applicable. The second point I wanted to make is that our colleague Renat from the G Connect regarding the call on the health, on the European data spaces on health, has shared in the chat the link to the proposal for the regulation on the European health data space. So over there you will find the full link. Please copy and paste the full link, because every time we're trying to include it in the chat, somehow it's splitting up into parts. Additionally, we will also make this link available on the funding and tenders portal in the question and answer section, so it will be easily accessible as well. Now, since there is no additional questions for the time being on the application process, we can move on to the next presentation, which will be delivered by our colleagues from Maria, and I'd like to welcome Aline, Florine, and Charlotte, who from their side will take us through the validation process, both in terms of the participant registration, as well as financial capacity assessment, as well as the ownership control. So I'd like to hand the floor to Aline.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just to ask about the presentation.
Yes, my colleague Maria is.
Would you like me to share or you share? I will share. No?
Yes,
okay.
that would be good.
No problem.
I can already start and introduce myself. My name is Elin Sijimov, and with my colleagues, as already said, Charlotte and Florin, today we are going to show you a short presentation on what do we do in the Central Validation Service, and cover the main subjects that are applicable to you, and in particular registration, the process of registration of your organization, and the validation. And after that, Charlotte and Florin will cover the financial capacity assessment and ownership control assessment. Now, in the first slide, you see the outline of today's presentation. So I will explain who we are at the Central Validation Service and our main activities. Then I will cover the relevant part on the registration of your organization, if you already have a PIC or if you are about to register one. Then we will talk about the legal validation, and we'll go a little bit more in details on this, what type of documents and what actually the process involves. Then I will highlight the main channel of communication that we would like to stick to when communicating with you during the validation process. And my colleagues will, as I said, cover the financial capacity assessment and ownership control assessment. And in the end of the presentation, you have a slide with the main guidance document that you can refer to, because this presentation will be made available to you. But now let's go to the next slide. We at the Central Validation Service perform we have several main activities. So we verified the legal existence and legal status of the entities. So we would need to be sure that your organization legally exists, it's currently registered, and we need to verify under what legal status, whether it's a private entity, an association, or a company, or a public entity. So that's what this entails. Then we also validate the appointment of legal entity appointed representative that you actually appoint. This is the person who officially is appointed by you to handle your access rights and key data in the participant register. Once you have your entity validated, some changes might occur, and once you encode them, you also validate such changes. We are responsible for the universal takeovers, or the so-called UTROs. These are mergers between different entities. Once you encode your bank account data, we also are responsible to validate it. So you have a valid bank account in our system. We prepare the financial capacity assessment and the ownership control assessment, which are applicable for specific programs. And we also are responsible for ex post status verification, which, for example, are the SME and mid-cap status checks. Now, on the next slide, on this slide, you actually get now at the proposal stage, because to submit your proposal, you need to have a registered PIC number. The PIC number could be simply register and non-valid, or you might already have it valid. In any case, on the left-hand side, you can see that you have the option to search for your organization, because someone else might have already registered it in the past. And if you don't find it, you have the option to register it now in order to be able to submit your proposal. On the next slide, we will actually see what the process of registration looks like. You need to encode the main data for your organization and the legal information in a step-by-step wizard, which again will also identify if, according to the data encoded, your organization already exists in our database. Here also, at one of the steps, the person who registers the organization is called self-registrant. And this is the person who is responsible for the PIC number until a leader is appointed. However, this person may also appoint authorized users, and we strongly encourage this to be done, because sometimes the self-registrant might leave the organization, but then in order for you to have access to the registered PIC, you might appoint other person as authorized users. Once the registration is completed, you will receive the participant identification code, or the PIC number, which is in the declared status. This is sufficient for you to submit your proposal. Now, then I will, on the next slide, you see this is a timeline that explains it's an overview of the validation process. We passed the first stage, which is the registration, and then to sign your a grant agreement or a contract, you need to have your entity validated. So the PIC needs to go from status non-valid or declared to status valid. And now I will go into a little bit more details about this. So the as mentioned already, the data that you have registered or encoded in the participant register, it's verified by us, the REA Central Validation Service, and this is done before the signature of the grant agreement or the contract. The advantage of this is that this is done only once, when you need to sign your first grant agreement or a contract, and then it's reused for future participations in grants or procurement actions. We always perform the validation on the basis of the supporting documents that you provide, and it is done in accordance with the EU financial regulation and the rules on legal entity validation, LEAR appointment, and financial capacity assessment. Both documents are available online, and the second document, the rules on legal entity validation and LEAR appointment and financial capacity assessment, it's actually a very good reference document for you for whatever questions you might have linked to the validation process, because it's a It's an accessible and detailed document, and most probably whatever question you have, you might find the answer there. We can go now on the next slide, where I will list you the documents that are necessary for the validation of your entity. They depend, so you receive a message in which we request these documents. The message is generated according to the data that you have encoded. So if you're a private entity, the list will include a specific document. If you're a public entity, it will include other documents. But the first and a very important document, it's the legal entity form, which is a template generated by the system, depending on whether you're a natural person, private entity, or public. It needs to be completed, dated, stamped, and signed. Then it's the VAT extract, which should be not older than 1 year, or a proof that of the VAT exemption if you are not registered for VAT. For private law bodies, we would require also the registration extract, also not older than 1 year. So we are sure that you are currently registered and under what specific form and when was your date of registration. This is an extract that it's normally generated from the registry agency or body within your country. For public law bodies, we would need the act of creation, which is normally a law, decree, decision, or other type of or other act of creation. And for international organization, this is the treaty of creation. For non-profit organization, we would request the statutes, because this is the document where the non-distribution of profit is regulated. We need to be sure that by your status, you declare that you're not going to distribute profit. Now, on the next slide, as I mentioned in the beginning, I would like to stress that for the purposes of the validation process, the communication is centralized only through the participant register. So you're going to receive the message that we send you as a notification via email. But to be able to reply and to upload documents, you need to actually log in the participant register, and there from the messaging section, reply to our message, provide clarification, and in the relevant place, upload documents. On the next slide, I would like to present you two scenarios, because sometimes the process is lengthy and you might lose access to your PIC. This could be, so there are two scenarios. If your PIC is simply declared, so the self-registrant registered a PIC number and submitted a proposal, but for some reason this self-registrant might have left the organization, and the self-registrant hasn't appointed any account administrators. So in this case, nobody would have access to this PIC number to provide the documents that we request for the validation. What you need to do in this situation is to register a new PIC and communicate this new PIC to us. So we are going to merge the old PIC with the new one, and we will make the new PIC your master one, the one that you have access to. However, on the second scenario, if your PIC is already valid, but for some reason the LIR has left the organization and there are no account administrators, then a new LIR needs to be appointed. There is a specific procedure called LIR recovery, which is very similar to the actual LIR appointment, and you again follow a step-by-step wizard to appoint a new LIR, who then you have access to your PIC and you'll be able to continue working in the portal. On the next slide, as I would like to stress again that we always base our validation on the legal documents that you upload. self-declarations are not accepted. We need to have documents uploaded in the portal. And now I will hand the floor to my colleague who will present you the financial capacity assessment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alin. Hello, everyone, and greetings from Brussels. My name is Florin Puiu, and I am a member of the Legal and Financial Validation Service. My presentation will be very short, and I will highlight some key information concerning the financial capacity assessment, or in short, the FCA. I will start by listing the legal basis, which is composed by the Financial Regulation 2018, specifically Articles 196 and 198. The second one is the famous rules on legal entity validation, already mentioned by Alin in the earlier slides. And the third document is the text of the call for proposals, where in section financial capacity, you might find additional information about the FCA. Now, an obvious question is, when is the FCA needed? The FCA is needed and required for all beneficiaries which request more than 60,000 euros, except for public bodies. Sorry. So the FCA is needed for all beneficiaries which request more than 60,000 euros and is exempted for public bodies. Once the FCA must be checked, you will be contacted by the Central Validation Service via the participant register, and you will upload the documents requested by us there. In the next slides, I will just list the financial documents we request to perform the financial capacity assessment, and these are the balance sheets, then the profit and loss accounts, then the explanatory notes or annexes if available, because these provide us additional information on the accounts. And if the EU contribution exceeds the threshold of 750,000 euros, we request a financial audit report produced by an independent auditor. In case the financial audit report is not compulsory for your organization, you will have to provide us a self-declaration on the accounts, by which you declare that the accounts are valid and reliable, and that no audit was required by your organization. All these documents have to be provided for 2 years to most recent years and closed in the official language, if we are talking about the EU languages, dated and signed. If the financial statements are not in an official language, we will just have to ask from you to provide us a translation, which it does not have to be, I don't know, official or authorized by a certified translator. For newly established entities, for startups, we request the business plan with financial projections for the next reporting year available. Once completed, the assessment will be valid for 18 months from the closing dates. In the next 2 slides, I will show you how the interface in the participant portal looks like. Here we have these 2 tabs, financial capacity and messages, where you can provide us the financial information requested by us to perform the financial capacity assessments. In the next slides, and the last one, you will see how the tab messages looks like, where you may receive and send messages to our validation service. Once you have a new message, you will be notified by the system with these red bullets, and you'll have the possibility to access the message and to reply to us by providing the information that we will request from you. And with that, I give the floor to my colleague Charlotte, and I thank you for your attention.